The book of Galatians obviously includes an ongoing drama involving two social groups. We got the Jews and the Gentiles. And I think it's not so much over the identity of Jesus Christ, but perhaps more over who has the right to join Israel, that is, who's a Jew, and subsequently follow after the Torah of Moshe, right? In other words, from the perspective of the Jewish people in Paul's day, the Torah was leveraged as a trophy that was the sole possession of Israel. It was Israel's mandate to keep the Torah that God gave her on Mount Sinai. And the word Israel, in my statement, was defined, or at least presented. I don't know so much, it wasn't really written down this way in their writings, but it was, for all practical purposes, from the first century religious Jewish mindset, Israel was a Jewish-only entity. Israel was comprised of Jews only. Therefore, when we say that the Torah, from the first century perspective, was for Israel only, that's tantamount to saying that the Torah was for Jews only. And given that exclusive view on Torah, if a Gentile wished to enjoin himself with Torah observance or become obedient to Torah or start down the path of keeping the Torah, he first had to contend with this ethnic problem. Because he wasn't born a Jew, then essentially he was blocked from access to the Torah. So let's keep reading. Recall that the Torah was historically given to Israel nearly 3,500 years ago. But recall that Israel's post-Egypt beginnings included both native-born sons of Jacob as well as those mixed racial multitudes that God delivered out of Egypt during the Passover. So we begin to see that really from a biblical perspective, Israel really isn't a Jewish-only set, even from the very beginning. These two groups came to the foot of Mount Sinai, that is, clans of Jacob as well as those mixed multitudes. These two groups came to the foot of Sinai. These two groups received the words of God, and these two groups were collectively called Israel by the text. Go back and read the Exodus narratives carefully again. God calls the group Israel. They gather, perhaps as a mixed multitude, but the minute God formally cuts a covenant with them, in other words, announces his words to them, the 10 words, the Asrat Hadrim, and they respond, all that you have said we will do. Basically, from that point forward, they're Israel. They're Israel. And then we can just simply read the text Israel and know that what we have in mind, what Moshe has in mind when we're reading Israel in the text, is the mixed multitude plus clans of Jacob. But they're both called Israel. And this forms the paradigm for salvation, as we're going to see. Paul later reveals, as I continue to read my commentary, Paul later reveals that the, quote, mystery of the gospel, end quote, is that according to Romans 11 and Ephesians chapters 2 and 3, and specifically Ephesians 6:19, Gentiles are, quote, grafted into the commonwealth of Israel via Messiah and become fellow heirs, sharing in the richness of the root of the olive tree, and, this is a very important and, inheriting the blessings spelled out in the Torah for all of obedient Israel, end quote. Did you guys catch that quote there? Very important. And I'm lifting that essentially from Ephesians passage there. Right? The Gentiles get grafted into Israel, and therefore the document that was given to Israel must equally apply to the Gentiles who are grafted into Israel. Makes sense. So for the church to come along, or for anyone, that is, for the Jews to come along, or the church, either one. I pick on the church quite often, but the Jews are equally guilty. National Israel teaches that the Torah is for Jews only. Right down to this day, they essentially teach that the Torah is a Jewish-only document. And the church teaches the same thing. I'm fond of saying that if you were to take a clipboard with a survey over to your average synagogue and ask the rabbi and the congregants, to whom is the Torah for, who has it given to, and who has the responsibility to keep it, more or less you're going to find that the synagogue is going to tell you the Torah is for Israel, it was given to Israel, it's for the Jews. And then if you take that same clipboard and survey over to the traditional church and ask them the same question, you're going to get a similar answer. The Torah is for Israel. It's theirs. It's for Jews only. In other words, we don't have to keep it. It's not our responsibility to maintain it, etc., etc. So both groups today, both historic people groups, the Jews, the national Jews, and the historic church, both of them essentially, as I see it, teach the same thing when it comes to responsibility to the Torah, and that is, it's a Jewish-only document. But I disagree. I strongly disagree. And I'm going to catch flack for that, but that's okay, because I think the Bible disagrees. Therefore, since Israel, as I continue to read, top of page 70 away, since Israel is actually a multi-ethnic entity, like we read about it in Exodus 20, Torah actually applies to all who name the name of the Lord as their one and only God. And that's why I said I disagree. Torah is for all who name the Lord as their God. This naturally includes Gentile believers in Yeshua, who of course name God as their God. The God of the Gentiles is the God of the Jews. Plain and simple. And therefore, if the God of the Gentiles is the God of the Jews, then the Torah of God is the Torah for the Gentiles as well. And it to me, it's a no-brainer. I understand some people can't consider that and can't understand that, and I'm certainly open to dialogue with you if you have questions or comments concerning that. Help me understand your position. I'll see if I can help you understand my position a little better. Maybe we can come to some common ground. Let's keep reading. Let's go back now and take a look at what we've covered so far in these sectional chapters to this Messianic Jewish commentary to the book of Galatians.